it's Friday. These holidays always throw me off. Um, I never know exactly what day it is until things settle down again. Um, and we are with, um, I have you down as course mentor and healer, but I think the list can go on a little bit.
Thank you.
Um, this is, oops, excuse me, Fiona Visser. I'm sorry, right? Want to
Yeah,
make
that's
sure that
my
I'm
married name, but people in the ACIM community would know me as Fiona Williams.
Fiona
Yeah,
Williams. I
yeah,
actually saw that on your um, web page.
yeah,
At the very top, it said Fiona Williams.
yeah.
So, speaking of uh, uh, your page, speaking of your website, you were sort of a lifelong. It's like you got the course through osmosis through your mother, right?
I did. Yes, it's the course has been around, always laying on a table in the living room as I was a toddler. It's just always been there.
This might be the first time I've ever asked this question. How did your mom get involved with the course?
My parents are from Belfast, Northern Ireland. So the Troubles, the war there, they came to Canada as refugees of war. And to help with the PTSD, my mom turned to A Course in Miracles, Edgar Casey, and Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, nice.
So she's just always been on that kind of lifelong path. And I got exposed to it and, of course, soaked it up. So.
Um, that sort of gets me to ask epigenetics, trauma, that
Sorry?
your the generational trauma,
Yeah.
and the fact that your parents came from a war-torn country. How did that affect your childhood?
Oh, anxiety, just full blown anxiety. A lot of stranger danger because I was the last of five children. So my mom just really held on tight, which I totally appreciate. Um, but then as I grew up, I actually had my own experience with PTSD, which was brought on from having taken care of my dog when he was sick with cancer. And just throughout the evening, I'd get startled awake by his noises. So after 6 weeks of caring for him, I actually ended up in full-blown hypervigilance and caregivers PTSD. I have just come out of it. I was diagnosed in 2019, but I used A Course in Miracles to help me out of it.
Um, I wasn't aware of such a thing,
Yeah.
the caregiver's PTSD, and um, I was a caregiver for probably altogether close to 20 years. Um, with my father, I was a caregiver for my mom and my siblings through her long decline with Alzheimer's. And then afterwards, and my wife and I got divorced, and my father asked if I'd come and just be a caregiver for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did. I ended up being end of life caregiver, and mainly I had help from siblings, but mainly it was my full time responsibility. And I understand that hypervigilance that you talk about.
Yeah.
You're always on call,
Always. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and it does
Yeah.
take a
And
toll.
it takes its toll. And, I think it's important, as course students, we're invited to start, like, use forgiveness when we feel calmer and happier. There are also those moments where you're going to use true forgiveness when you're in the midst of it because you just need some help. And I found as I was healing from PTSD, it was a combination of both. Mid panic attack, I would turn to the Holy Spirit and use true forgiveness. But I would also use it in my quieter moments. And what I would say to anyone who is a caregiver, or if you find yourself hypervigilant or dealing with any sort of symptoms from PTSD, yes, you can use the course, but it's also very important that you stop and take those moments to calm your nervous system down as much as you can, as frequently as you can, because just having that overstimulation, can really, it causes major issues. It leads to irritability, full-blown anger, rage episodes, all of that.
So we're talking self regulation.
Absolutely. It always begins with us, right? The individual. Yeah. Yeah.
How would you tie self-regulation with the Holy Spirit? Um, can we
Yeah.
ask? Corinne Zupko
Yeah.
calls the Holy Spirit her inner therapist, and I love that term.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's important to recognize that in the course we're taught that the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal way. The Holy Spirit is our higher self. It's the memory of God in our mind. So it's not something separate from us. It's that part of us that is in the right mind, not the wrong mind of the ego, but the right mind of spirit. That's in your mind. And when we turn to the Holy Spirit through our trials, what you're asking for is that spiritual support, that reminder of the truth. Because if we stay in the ego's thought system, if you stay in the wrong mind of the ego, you're just perpetuating the conflict and the chaos. So, absolutely, I used PTSD. Also, I healed from Meniere's disease, which is a vertigo disease, using A Course in Miracles. And then also the relationship with my mom. It was emotionally abusive. And I recently healed from that using the principles of A Course in Miracles, because it always comes back to us, the individual. How am I perceiving this? If I'm perceiving it with the ego, well, then the ego is going to keep its agenda of separation alive. So it's up to me that no matter what I face, beneath that trial, beneath PTSD, beneath an emotionally abusive relationship, beneath vertigo, was that one problem that the Course teaches. I think I separated from God. And it's important for us Course students to remember that. So, you do your helpful things in the world that you need, but you always want to make sure you tend to that issue where I think I left God. And of course, we correct that with the atonement. I never left God. The truth will correct all errors in my mind.
So I liked how you said, um, despite appearances, despite a world in which we are shown a multitude of problems and conditions, situations and events, there's really only one problem, right?
Yep, absolutely. One problem, one solution.
That's the good news. Um, you know,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
um, so, and you mentioned the one problem being that we believe that we are separate from God.
Mm,
We are our
yeah.
small, separate egos that have to fight for every little scrap of self recognition and identity, get
Mhm.
ours before someone else gets theirs. Um, what's the one solution?
The one solution is the atonement, the recognition that you never actually left God, right? And so that's where, I mean, in the course we're taught that the one role of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for themselves, right? So I often remind myself of the atonement throughout the day. I start my day by acknowledging my oneness with God. And then whenever you apply the true forgiveness process, the atonement is built in there where you're recognizing that you have decided wrongly by not being at peace and choosing for the ego. You ask the Holy Spirit to judge that for you. And then you round off with the atonement, remembering the truth that I never left my source. I'm one in God. So the one problem is we think we left God. And that one problem, the ego is just a term for that, for separation, for I think I separated. And the one solution is the atonement. I never actually separated. This physical experience is a dream, as we're taught in the course. So I like to see it as not my reality, but it's an experience. But it's an experience that I can reframe as an opportunity to heal. It's my classroom. And through so doing, I awaken and remember the truth that I'm one in God, which it would be enlightenment.
I love that you said experience because that's what the course presents us. It's not a theoretical course. It's not that when you die you will experience this. It's that when you practice true forgiveness, you will know this. You will have the experience of being one with God right now because um, forgiveness isn't theoretical. Forgiveness is the experience.
Yeah.
Could you you've mentioned true forgiveness a couple of times, and
Yeah.
I think the two things that might be the hardest for people just coming to the course or um, maybe have been practicing for a little bit, but still haven't quite grasped two things are forgiveness, true forgiveness, and that the world, and this all ties together, the world is an illusion, it's a dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, true forgiveness, what is it?
True forgiveness is so it's on page 90 of the text of the course. It's lovingly known by ACIM students as the page 90 exercise. It's the end of chapter 5 in italics. Um, Gary Renard, some people are fans of him. I'm a fan of him. He wrote The Disappearance of the Universe and the trilogy of that book. Through his work, he outlines through his teachers the 3-step process that is embedded in the page 90 exercise of true forgiveness. The first step would be that I'm recognizing that I'm upset. So clearly, I am thinking with the ego. What this first step does is it puts you at the level of cause, where you're recognizing that you are the thinker who chose for the ego. So it's not necessarily about the projection of the world and what appears to be happening. That's an effect. So what the first step does is it puts cause and effect in the right place. I'm the thinker. I'm at the level of cause in this world where I choose how I think about this. And if I'm upset, that's all me. But that's good because that's my power position, right? Our power position in this world is that of the decision maker. I get to choose how I see this. And I love to say that your ability to change your mind is what your ultimate enlightenment relies upon. You are able to change your mind. So in that first step, I recognize I'm upset, I'm feeling out of whack, but I take responsibility for it. I put myself at the level of cause, right? The second step was, Holy Spirit, please take this from me and judge it for me. I don't know what to do with it. Ego Fiona doesn't know what to do with it. I'm just going to perpetuate the chaos and the conflict and make it all me, me, me. So Holy Spirit, take it from me. Please judge this thought for me. Not just take it from me, but take it from me and judge it for me. That's what the Holy Spirit's role is. It's going to correctly judge. It only ever sees things as either true or false. So that's what the Holy Spirit does. And then the third step would be activating your spiritual sight, that I'm one in God, right? I never left. So that's essentially the 3-step process. I rock it out all the time.
Talking about Gary Renard, that, I picked up the course in around I started reading about the course in the late 80s. Then I started reading books about the course in the early 90s. It's about 93, 94 when I finally bought the course. And I put it aside and I'd study it and I put it aside. It wasn't until I read Disappearance in the Universe when it clicked and I said, okay, I know what to do.
Yeah.
It was an amazing trigger
Yeah.
to open up the whatever blocks that I had. Very often people have thought, well, do you think that you just weren't ready for it? And I actually think the opposite, that
Okay.
I was all too ready for it. And my ego knew that I was ready
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
So it just kept coming up with excuses and excuses and excuses. But it was the course as well as meditation and yoga that healed me from a decade's worth of destructive drinking
Oh, wow.
in a really miraculous fashion. Um, and it
Beautiful.
was in an instant. People ask me, was it hard for you to quit drinking? And the truth is, no, because I never tried.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I was presented with an opportunity where I saw the tragic path if I kept going,
Right. Yep.
and I saw an opportunity
Yeah.
that I could choose this, and I could choose sobriety. And in an instant, I did. Um,
Wow.
and that was 27 years ago.
Wow. Incredible. Good for you.
So when you were talking about healing, it
Yeah.
really intrigued me to
Mhm.
talk more about healing.
Yes. Yeah.
What is it in the course that was the most helpful for you for healing? Where you had that vertigo, the inner ear, and there was one more thing.
Yeah, and the Meniere's disease, the PTSD, and the emotionally abusive relationship with my mom. Yeah. Yeah. So the biggest thing that stood out for me from the course that I would often use was the course lesson, "The truth will correct all errors in my mind." For some reason, that just deeply resonates with me, that correction is possible, healing is possible. I love that lesson, you know. So I actually just found in my hardest moments, it gently reminded me that the chaos would not go on forever, that peace and healing were indeed possible. I just have this deep seated belief that yes, truth will correct all errors in my mind.
Um, it's funny because normally I save this question till the very end, which
Mm,
is, I love thinking of the course as a holographic experience. That if you get one thing, you get the entirety. And
yeah.
always ask, is there a like a card up the sleeve that you can pull out at any time to help you through some difficult times? And I think you probably just answered that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be the true forgiveness process. The truth that corrects all errors in my mind is like my snap out of it, like, come on, sister, you got this. But with practice of the true forgiveness process, it can become instantaneous, right? So I've been doing it since 2013, the true forgiveness process, like, with consistency every day. On when I've found myself disturbed or upset or whatever it might be, and it has become that for me. It's become part of me, and it's become my reaction to when I am upset. And which I'm incredibly grateful for, because the when I started practicing true forgiveness, that's when everything just started to seem to happen. The Meniere's disease went into its most debilitating stage of vertigo. I had been dealing with it for 10 years before. And then the PTSD happened, and then that exposed the relationship with my mom, where there were some troubles there. So it was just like I had this prep time to like get used to true forgiveness, and then wham, here's your turn.
Um, and I had read what you just said as well from Gary Renard. Eventually, it becomes seamless. It's not even three steps. It
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
it happens with practice. And
Yeah.
speaking of the practice, we do have a question. Right above the question, a friend says, "Great teacher, by the way. She's awesome."
Oh,
Um,
thank you. It warmed my
and
heart. Thank you.
our friend Evan says, "Does true forgiveness ever get you into trouble?"
Oh. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of like a little bit of an open-ended question. Like, I guess how so? How would it get me into trouble?
Well, let's start with that. How would it? How could true forgiveness get you into trouble?
Well, well, I guess if I'm just being honest, this is what stands out for me is people, if like, especially if you're using it in a challenging relationship, the other party could probably get frustrated that you're not participating in the drama.
There you go.
Or I do know a few clients of mine who are using it to help themselves through sickness, and other people around them can get scared that maybe that person's not doing enough. I do want to stress that true forgiveness, along with modalities that you feel support you, it's a two-step process. It is important that you take care of yourself, but it's also important that you apply true forgiveness. But yeah, so I can see where it gets you into trouble is maybe that the people around you don't understand how that's sufficient, and why are you not giving in? Why are you not giving in to the drama and the trouble? That has been definitely what I've encountered. The
Right.
questions. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. But yeah.
Es- Especially because we don't, um, you don't go through the world uh, with this, painted on smile, nodding at people and saying, "I've forgiven you. I've forgiven you." It's a private affair. No one even has to know that you're going through the world forgiving.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very personal. It's between you and the Holy Spirit. And it's what I, especially when you're applying true forgiveness, it's very important to recognize that you are forgiving yourself for taking the ego seriously. It's really not about the other person at all, right? It's I'm misperceiving this. So, we're taught in the course that fear is actually a call for love. So some of the things I was seeing from my mom were actually just her ways of expressing a call for love. That doesn't mean that I didn't have to do certain things to bring about a healthier dynamic in our relationship. I definitely did. I did that with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. But what was important was that in the quieter moments when I was by myself, was that I didn't make an enemy of my mom or anyone else. I just recognized that what they were expressing was a call for love, and they didn't know how to do that. But also, just the same, I've done that, right? Like, we all look at our personal history. Look how many times we've been calls for love, and it did not come out that way, right?
Right.
And you're like, okay. But as course students, we're starting to learn that. So I think it brings in a lot of compassion. When you apply true forgiveness, that's helpful to keep that in mind. Like, they believe they're the ego and the ego's thought system just as much as we have, and we're starting to undo that. But so it's like I recognize that we're kind of all in this boat together, and it can feel really tough. So I think the greatest thing I can do is just not judge you, although sometimes you can feel really hurt, and that's valid, at the worldly level. But in your quieter moments, you can take a step back and start to invite some of those right-minded ideas that the Course teaches us, that this is a call for love. They know not what they do, just the same as I've been like that, and,
Right.
can do that, so I think with true forgiveness, it's very important to recognize that the ultimate thing you are forgiving is that you have taken the ego seriously. Because when I say that I've taken the ego seriously, what am I saying? I'm saying that there's something other than what God created, right? And that is a falsehood. There is only what God created. Again, what we're experiencing here is just that, an experience, a dream, a nightmare. But it's not reality. And when we take that all the way back to the tiny mad idea, what was the problem? We didn't laugh at it. So every single time you are upset, you're repeating the tiny mad idea where you're taking the ego seriously. And that's what needs corrected. That's what true forgiveness does.
Could you tie that together with a question that we have?
Hmm.
Is there a definition of forgiveness?
A definition of forgiveness, like in the Course. I would just say that the essence of it would be the atonement, right? The atonement principle. The atonement principle. The atonement is the principle. The miracles are the means. Healing is the result. It's true forgiveness that initiates that process. So I would say the atonement. Absolutely. Yeah. Because the atonement's only ever needed in the illusion. When you remember you're one in God and you're totally awakened, you don't need the atonement. You're living, you're rocking out your oneness, right?
And we have more questions rolling in. Was there a specific lesson or passage in the workbook that fundamentally changed Fiona's understanding of what it means to be healed?
Yes, actually, I love that you brought that up. I was doing some perusing around before our chat just so I could be prepared. And in lesson 140 of the Course, only salvation can be said to cure. Here it is, paragraph 4. This was it. Atonement heals with certainty and cures all sickness. For the mind, which understands that sickness can be nothing but a dream, is not deceived by forms the dream may take. Sickness where guilt is absent cannot come, for it is but another form of guilt. Atonement does not heal the sick, for that is not a cure. Here it is, ding, ding, ding. It takes away the guilt that makes the sickness possible. And that is cure indeed. For sickness now is gone, with nothing left to which it can return. So the atonement does not heal the sick. It takes away the guilt that is beneath the sickness. Now let's keep in mind of what we're actually talking about here. We're taught in the Course that only perception can be sick. So what's actually sick is the mind, right? It can show up in a multitude of ways, like bodily infections, but it can also show up as relationship issues, right? And other ways that you find yourself reacting with the ego. So again, we don't want to be deceived by the form of how our challenges are showing up, right? Like all of the three major challenges that I've gone through in the past 10 years all had that one issue beneath, right? And so I knew that it was the guilt that kind of just needed to it just needed to be sucked out, corrected, and healed. And then healing can occur. Sometimes bodily healing can occur. Sometimes relationships can heal. All of that stuff. But what's important is that you recognize it as the guilt where I think I left God. I took that idea seriously, where I could separate from God, and now I feel horrible for it. And that guilt fuels your suffering. Not only that, but then you fear that you're going to be punished. That is what's going on in the dynamics of your mind with the ego. And it shows up in our physical daily life with those challenges that you get. So we always want to address the the guilt in the mind by acknowledging the atonement.
That's if I had to name a theme, Fiona's theme, it
Yeah.
is the mind. Everything comes back to the mind.
Always.
You think your body,
Always.
you think that you're the sickness, you think that you are the conditions, but it always comes back to the mind.
Always.
I've been I've been having conversations with an imaginary Kenneth Wapnick,
Oh,
or
fun.
he's having conversations with me, and
Yeah.
whenever I get caught up in stuff, um, he reminds me, good naturedly, a little
Mhm.
sarcastically, uh,
Mhm.
effects, effects, effects. You're dealing with effects, and you're expecting things to be different.
Yeah.
You're rearranging the effects, and you know better. You have
Yeah.
to go to the cause, uh, and the cause of everything is
Mind. Yeah, the mind. And like we want to recognize that we're dealing with two different levels here, right? So we have the oneness, the one mind. We don't really remember what that's like right now, but at the level of the one mind, God is cause, right? But at the level of the world in our worldly experience, it is our minds that are the cause. This world was projected out from the mind. But what can I do in this world? Well, then I'm the decision maker. Again, right, as I shared earlier, your enlightenment will come from your ability to change your mind. And so, what I always love to point out is the kind of like A Course in Miracles states like it's a psychotherapy program. Like it, and nowhere does it say that you're a body. All the way through it, Jesus is like, decision maker, hey, decision maker, choose again. It's always pointing to the mind. And when we look at our society, yeah, there's some people who are like, hey, yeah, the mind's got some worth here. But the mind has been greatly diminished. And that's an ego tactic where people are like, oh, this, oh, that about the mind. But that's just trying to hide what the truth is, where you have to bring it back. Because when people identify with the ego mind, of course they're going to think that that's crap. They're going to like, yeah, like, that sucks. But there's another part of the mind. There's the right mind. That's the antidote to the ego. You need that. So the ego's always going to try and hide the fact that you have a mind that can choose against the ego. That's very threatening to the ego. So it says you're a body. You're your problems. You're your past. You're your stories. That's all you are.
and we believe it.
Yeah. And it's just a distraction device. I just that's all it's doing.
Um, we have our next question.
Mhm.
Let's see, where'd it go? I'm looking for your question, Star Seeker. She was asking about uh, resources for the caregiver's PTSD syndrome. Is there any
Oh, yeah.
resources out there? And do you work with people yourself with this?
Yes, I do. I am an ACIM focused. So if you need help understanding the course and how you can apply to the course to such challenges, I'm your girl. Um, but my credentials as a life coach and clinical hypnotherapist, would not be satisfactory for someone going through caregivers PTSD. When it came to caregivers PTSD, honestly, I first aligned with the Holy Spirit and then followed my intuition, because you don't want to go down the Google black hole. But when I came upon hypervigilance, that would probably be the ultimate thing I would go and look up, is hypervigilance. Get a sense of if you're looking or, experiencing any of the symptoms. And then what I think that really helps you kind of hone in on where you need support, where you need to start to calm your nervous system down. People who experience caregivers PTSD, it can be for different reasons. So they could, so where is like the nagging issue? Like for me, it was getting startled repeatedly. That, of course, sent my nervous system out of whack. But for other people, it could be, are they dealing with someone who's really passive aggressive, and that's really starting to weigh on them? What is the actual, I think what I would first do is identify what is the nagging issue, or several issues perhaps. Look up hypervigilance, because that is an effect of caregivers PTSD. And then what I would do is calm your nervous system down. Whatever you have to do in your environment in a loving way is calm your nervous system down, because those symptoms can be the most disruptive, right? Of hypervigilance, where I've said, like, just the irritability. I had horrible nightmares, night terrors, sleep paralysis, panic attacks. So you want to really take care of yourself. What do you need at a worldly level? And then you start to bring in true forgiveness as you feel more peaceful, as you feel willing, as you feel calm enough to do so. That would be the approach I would take. As far as a specific resource, I would say follow your intuition, ask for help from spirit for guidance, and follow your intuition.
Do you think that you were more set up for the experience of caregivers PTSD because of that family trauma, because of
Yes.
the epigenetics, and of course, with your parents being Irish, they've shown that um, there's still the effects epigenetically of the potato famine. What was it, 1840s? That families
Oh,
are
wow.
still experiencing the effects of that. Long-term alcoholism uh,
Yeah.
from generation to generation to generation. So PTSD seems like almost when you think about it, the logical chain of events of this unhealed trauma. And what an opportunity! It sounds weird to say, but what an opportunity for you to put the
Yeah.
brakes on that family trauma, because it
Yeah. I'm a
ends. It
psych
ends with you.
I'm a cycle breaker, that's for sure. I mean, I don't have kids, but definitely I'm doing my part to end it here,
Right.
right? But yeah, like absolutely. It's interesting, when I was going through the worst of the PTSD, the Holy Spirit speaks to us in many ways. Our intuition, messages that we receive from others that just kind of like excite us. Like you can kind of tell there's a quality to that message, but also dreams. Now, I'm not saying the Holy Spirit was responsible for this, but my experience with dreams throughout my life has been very, very potent. I have quite vivid dreams. And when I was going through the worst of the PTSD, I was amazed by how many dreams I had about my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents, who I did know, and they passed away at this time. But I was having dreams about them essentially being stuck in limbo, um, and almost being kind of zombie-ish. And it was always about my mom's parents. And I was close enough with them, but I wasn't overly close. So I'm like, why am I dreaming about Granny and Grandad? I don't get it. And they had been dead for about 10 years before the PTSD kicked in. I was dreaming about their home, my grandparents' home, about a ghost, a shadow figure in their home. I was constantly dealing with ghosts in my grandparents' home. That was the theme of the dreams from the PTSD. And definitely, I think it was just, I was being shown, from a worldly level, where that trauma was coming from, and where I really, really had to pay attention and apply some true forgiveness. So I would get the Holy Spirit. I would put my mind in a healing state before I went to sleep. And then when I woke up, any dreams you have, any sleeping dreams you have, if you find yourself reacting to them in an ego-based way, make sure to forgive them. Because this is the waking dream, but when we go to sleep tonight, that's the sleeping dream, but it's still a dream. It's still worthy of forgiveness. So I applied a lot of true forgiveness to that old content. Familial trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. I had not thought of I I love having guest stuff. I learned so much. I had not thought about forgiving my sleep dreams.
Absolutely.
It had not even occurred to me.
Yeah.
We have another question. Course Miracles states that miracles are natural. How do we move from seeing healing as a rare event to seeing it as a natural byproduct of a connected mind?
Oh, well, you just step into that power position and own that you are a child of God. You are a child of God. I guess when I always kind of turn into a bit of a motivational speaker when it comes to when I talk about A Course in Miracles, miracles are natural. And I think what is important for us to do is to remind ourselves more often of how powerful we truly are. A way to kind of recognize that is to go, okay, well, the more negative experiences I have, the intense anger perhaps, or other challenges that you have, those for which you can feel negative emotions, still speaks to the power of your mind. Well, if I can do that, if I can experience that intensity, well, then the opposite is also true, that I can experience other things more intensely because it's just speaking to the power of my mind. Well, if I'm that powerful, well, then there's something at work here. That's kind of what always stood out for me, right? And then when you go throughout the course and you read it, you're constantly being reminded of how powerful you are. So for me, it's Jesus, I think it's in chapter 4, Jesus was sharing, he's like, don't ask me to save you from fear. That's not something I can do because then I'd be interrupting cause and effect. He's like, but what I can do is I can help you start to appreciate the power of your mind. Because that, when you start to appreciate how powerful your mind is, that's when you're going to start to make right-minded decisions and get out of the ego's chaos. So I guess it just, you have start to see if you can tune in with yourself and look at what your life has been like so far and been like, this has been me. This has been me as the decision maker. This is how I've made it this far. Now, what if I started to activate turning to my right mind into spirit? Because I'm that powerful, I can do that. And then what would the loving effects of that be? Like, you don't know, but you can be open-minded. And so I think it's just important to recognize how much the ego's tried to dumb us down.
Right. A little
Yeah.
curiosity goes a long way, doesn't it?
It's so, I mean, it's a characteristic of a teacher of God is to be open-minded.
Right.
Oh, like, let yourself be surprised.
And we have, as you just pointed out, we have that within us. It's not like we need to search to find, so many people forever have been seekers, and yet everything we've ever sought, seeked or sought, one of those two words, um, everything we've ever seeked has been within us the entire time. And
Okay.
Jesus even gave us hints in the Bible: the kingdom of heaven is within. And we
Yeah.
immediately looked up and said, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
another question. Um, what is the most common ego block people encounter when trying to apply the course to a chronic illness or deep emotional trauma?
That this isn't possible. That healing just isn't possible because I deeply respect that some of our experiences and for others can be decades long. It's been your whole life. Why could anything possibly be different? So a sense of, is this even possible? I can deeply respect that would be a challenge, an ego block.
Um, one of the things I mentioned that I was afraid uh, there was just too much to talk about with you.
Yeah.
Um, Hypnosis has always been a deep fascination with me. And now I
Yeah.
see that you're also a life coach with it's the Milton,
Erickson. Yeah. Milton Erickson. Yeah. Erickson. Yeah.
and I was talking about him today. He was a phenomenal um, hypnotist to the point where just with like very subtle movements, the turn of his head, the movement of his shoulders, and he could put someone in a deep trance. I always found that absolutely amazing.
Yes. Well, again, it just again speaks to the power of the mind. There's, and why I went and got my clinical hypnotherapy training done was because of this deep appreciation that I just inherently have for the mind. I think it's very important we start to, demystify it. And A Course in Miracles is amazing for that. Absolutely amazing. Like its laws of chaos, its laws of the mind. Like it's there. It exposes the ego's mind, how that functions, and then exposes the laws of the mind. And it's just incredible. And so yeah, both life coaching and clinical hypnotherapy and the course, just all about the mind. Yeah.
Um, you know, the course gets a lot of credit for being a spiritual masterpiece, which it is. Um, and for me, to me, it's the short path. It's the short
Yeah.
path to God realization, to self realization. Um, but do you think it'll eventually get credit for being a psychological classic as well?
Man, I hope so. Because honestly, it comes with the corresponding pamphlet on the purpose of psychotherapy. I mean, how can you miss it, really? Like it even says that it's a course in mind training. That's a sentence in the course, right? So, I think it's very important to pay attention to what the course is actually saying, and what it's actually pointing to. Your decision-making ability, the importance of forgiveness, that you are a child of God and that is unalterable, right? But also, what I think stands out for me with the course is the importance of relationships. And what Jesus is pointing out there, and what I love to point out as well, is that you cannot have an enemy and no peace. How could you? How could you judge someone else from an ego-based perspective and expect to be free of that judgment, right? Because there is actually only one mind. It appears that we're in different bodies, but at the level of the unconscious, that's not how it works. So every judgment I'm holding about someone else, ego-based judgment, I'm actually, I'm talking about me, and I'm holding myself in a prison. So the amount of times that as you see them, you will see yourself. Or as I like to say, as you see them, you will experience yourself. You can't expect to know peace if you're investing in chaos and projecting that chaos onto someone else, but trying to keep yourself squeaky clean. It doesn't work like that. So be cautious of how you are viewing others. What are the messages that you are giving yourself about them? Right? So we want to start to practice moving beyond the facade of the ego, you know, and start to recognize their unalterable truth, that they are an innocent child of God. Now, what I love to point out is that you're not asked to love their ego. The ego is unlovable. It is the antithesis of love, right? So when we're being asked to love another, you're not asked to love all those ego eccentricities. You're asked to go to the truth, that in there is a spark, the truth of God. That is what you're being asked to love. And the love in you can love that. You don't have to fuss around with all the other stuff.
This is also you could replace the word love with forgiveness. We're not forgiving their ego,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
um, which I think if people really got that,
Yeah.
forgiveness would become much easier. Because
Yes.
people always list but how do I forgive? And then they'll an endless list of things that
Yeah.
are truly on the level of the ego, unforgivable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
But
It's
Holy Spirit doesn't.
challenging.
It is, but Holy Spirit
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
see it that way, does it?
exactly. Yeah, the Holy Spirit only either sees things as true or false, as I previously mentioned, right? So, the one of the major teachings from the course is that there is no world, but it's a classroom. I have to reframe it as a classroom. And Jesus talks a lot about not getting deceived. You don't want to follow the ego down its rabbit holes and go, well, this problem seems to be more extreme than that problem. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. No matter what mask the ego is wearing, beneath it is that one problem. You think you left God, and the opportunity for the one solution. I never left God. So we want to be really, really careful not to fall for the ego's deceptions, that some things seem harder than others. And definitely we can experience them that way. Like the 3 challenges I mentioned. Yeah, I've had other little challenges beneath that did not seem so extreme, but they still had the same ego content beneath it. I think I left God, right? You just mentioned the more extreme ones because it's more relatable.
Right.
Yeah,
All right. I have a bit of a tough question.
sure.
How does one master this when I collapse 3 or 4 times a day, so much that I have to make sure glass and sharp objects are stored well? Because so far I haven't seriously hurt myself. This is our friend Mark, who is experiencing a host of physical um, issues, serious pain. I believe he's in need of liver and kidney transplant.
Okay,
Um,
yep.
and that makes me think of back to Milton Erickson, who was in an iron lung when
Yeah,
he developed his method of
yeah.
um, the foundation of his method for hypnosis. But it shows that, well, how would you address that?
I love that question and thank you so much for bringing it up. So, first and foremost, what I would say is begin your day by putting the Holy Spirit, your higher self, a fundamental part of you, in charge. When you do that, you will be guided throughout your day and whatever you need to do. And including, you will get those sparks of inspiration should there be something you need to do for your safety or whatever it might be. So essentially, we want to activate the Holy Spirit. So when I was going through vertigo, I was down for the count suddenly for 6 to 7 hours. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even open my eyes without vomiting. So I dig that. I get it. So what I had to do was put the Holy Spirit in charge at the beginning of the day. And I would just kind of follow my intuition as to what I could safely do. And then what I would do is I don't know about his condition, but when I was down for 6 to 7 hours, I had the opportunity to turn to the Holy Spirit. The fear would subside from the initial, vertigo experience. I would still be in vertigo, but then I would have an opportunity to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance and to just be in charge. And what I really found with that really helped to alleviate the fear, because it's the fear that's always the issue, right? It's letting you know that you're kind of ego based. So I would do that, and I would take the opportunity to apply true forgiveness. But that's how it worked for me. If for him, I'm just going to grab the book. I would rock this out. So, Love Has Forgotten No One by
I'm
Gary
reading it right
Renard.
now. That's
Awesome.
the last of his books that I hadn't read.
Yes, it's so good. And in page 79, there's an ACIM based healing meditation. And I did that every night along with true forgiveness. And that is how, after 2 months of doing that consistently, I had my spiritual healing experience from Meniere's disease. So remember that there's ego content going on beneath his issue, and so you want to start to bring relief to that guilt by handing it over to the Holy Spirit for loving correction. And then whatever the healing, how that flows will be very individualized. I can't say what he can expect, but I can say what you can do. Apply true forgiveness when you feel the fear. Put the Holy Spirit in charge at the beginning of the day. If you need a reminder throughout the day, Holy Spirit, I've put you in charge. I open my mind to you. And then every night, do that healing meditation and put your mind in a healing state before you go to sleep. If you experience any nightmares, when you wake up, be sure to forgive that ego content. That was the approach I took to everything that I've gone through, and it worked like a charm. So I hope that's helpful, but you are able to receive inspiration throughout the day for your own very specific needs. And what I would also say is don't get discouraged. The Holy Spirit is a fundamental part of you and knows how to speak to you. So whatever words or messages would be most helpful for him, that is possible, and he can receive that guidance and that love and that support. But make sure to tend to that guilt and correct it beneath the experience.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
I hope that's helpful.
Let me take a moment to thank a few people bought a gift membership for someone, and some our friend has did some of the jewels. Deeply appreciated, guys.
Sweet.
I have a question for you on healing. Do you think that you could have found a way through practicing forgiveness that had you not had the physical manifestation of healing, that you could have been okay, that you could have healed, so that even if you didn't achieve that, you still would have been healed?
Sorry, you mean like without true forgiveness, or?
Well, by practicing true forgiveness, like if you hadn't had the physical manifestation of the healing, could you have found a way to know that you were healed even though you were still experiencing the physical symptoms?
100%, 100%. Yes, absolutely. And to tell you the truth, I had an experience, not this November, the November 2024. I had so I was coming just out of the PTSD, almost out of it at that point. And I had been woken up, and my husband was like, "Oh, you got 20 more minutes, sleep 20 more minutes. I'm just going to deal with the dogs and I'll come get you and wake you up and we can carry on with our day." I was like, "Sweet." So I went back to sleep, and in that 20 minutes, I totally crashed. And in that, I had a dream where this gentleman, he seemed to look kind of like from the future, but he was an older gentleman. And he put this device in the dream. He put this device on me that went in front of my eye and went and put a vibration in my ear. And the light pulsed and the vibration did something. And, what's not the affected ear that I had from Meniere's, and I healed from that like ages ago. This is a totally different thing. And he did that, and I started to feel the vibration and get the light. And after a minute, I started to feel uncomfortable, but I decided to just go with it. And then about then it stopped, and he took off the device and he looked at me with these big, beautiful blue eyes. And he just said, "Healed." And then my husband came in and woke me up. Now that would be an experience of, I don't know what healed. My life carried on very normally after that. I was still dealing with symptoms from the PTSD. I have no idea what was going on. But essentially what I guess what I'm speaking to is, I don't know what happened there. It did seem like, I feel like a healing experience. So I feel like I probably would have gotten something like that. That would have given me the motivation to just be like, "You're okay. Like, just keep doing your forgiveness work. You're good." That I feel like I would have gotten something motivational like that.
Right. Do you know Lisa Natoli?
Yeah, I know of her. Yes.
She was on here maybe a month ago, and she talked about part of her healing was realizing I can be okay even if this doesn't change.
Absolutely. 100%, because it's the fear in the mind that's the problem. It's the fear around the issue. And that fear, remember, beneath that fear is the guilt. I think I've left God. And the fear is I'm going to be punished. But we have that fear around these illnesses. So essentially what I like to say is, if it doesn't bother you, you got nothing to forgive. Like you're neutral. So I kind of like to describe it as a radar. You've got something to forgive if you've got a blip on your radar. You're reacting. But if it just doesn't bother you, and that can be absolutely with a physical issue, it just doesn't bother me, it's just not a big deal, then you're good. Because that was projected out long ago. So it was part of your experience. But what you want to look at is your reactions, because your reactions are showing you that you have ego content, you have guilt that's attracted to the issue, and it's getting activated. So you want to pay attention to your reactions. That's your red flag that you've got some forgiveness to do. So absolutely, I think you could go through anything and be neutral about it. That's an advanced mind, but it's possible for all of us.
Sure.
So don't get discouraged. It is possible because you are the child of God. This is inevitable that you're going to heal.
Are you familiar with Ken Keyes?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
He wrote Handbook of Higher Consciousness, and it was a bestseller in the I believe the late 70s, maybe the early 80s. And he used to talk about, he called it simplified Buddhism, Buddhism 101. Elevate your demands. I demand this to work. I demand my body not to hurt. I demand to just elevate those demands to a preference. Because we can deal with preferences. And I remember thinking at one point, well, that was very easy for him to say,
Yeah.
just upgrade your demands. And then I finally saw him on a talk show. He was paralyzed from the neck down due to childhood polio.
Oh, yes.
And he learned how to, his demands would have been, I want to walk again. I want my body to function again. But when he elevated them to a preference, he became, as his own words, immeasurably happy.
Nice.
Finding happiness where he was, which would have been denied had he been stuck in those demands. And it makes me think of the principles in A Course in Miracles that, sometimes the effects don't change the way we expect them to.
At all. No,
but
not at all.
we can still be happy.
100%. Because it's the guilt in your mind that's the problem. And when the guilt is corrected and healed through true forgiveness, you simply come to be more peaceful. Right. And, that's where I was kind of speaking to earlier, where people are like, well, is there any, kind of issue with true forgiveness, like any kind of warning? Well, yeah, the people around you might be more like, why aren't you reacting more? Why isn't this a big deal? But you're just genuinely feeling more peaceful because you just don't have that guilt that's getting activated, so it's just not a big deal for you.
We have a request from a friend. Could you hold up Gary's book again? She wants to take a screenshot.
Absolutely.
Love Has Forgotten No One, and this is third one by Gary Bernard.
Yes.
I don't know why it took me so long to get to this, and of course, I'm eagerly looking forward to his new release.
Oh, I'm so excited for that one. Yes, but Love Has Forgotten No One is so good. Look at all my tabs. Look how dog-eared it is. I mean, I love it.
It's funny. I had trouble with the healing section.
With the
and I had trouble with the healing section, the chapter that you had brought up.
The bodily healing, yeah.
I put it aside, and then was inspired to pick it up again. And it's funny how new eyes can show you, not only show you what you were missing, but show you the blocks of why you were having trouble with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, and that's an excellent section. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think it's important for us to recognize that, it's important to be normal. While you appear to be here, you have certain needs. You don't make them a big deal, but, you do them. But always make sure to address that guilt by doing the true forgiveness work. Take moments of connection with your source. Put the Holy Spirit in charge. These are very simple things that we can weave into our day. And as we start to do them, we start to tune in to the fact that we're more than a body, that we are, in fact, spirit. So these are the things that you just gently weave in throughout your day. And you perceive differently, and you start to notice those beautiful effects.
which brings us, to the great line in the course: "Do not seek to change the world; seek to change how you see the world." And um, that's really that's another one of those holographic cards that we can pull out. If I'm having a bad day, um, if I find myself everything's going wrong, I could easily blame blame the world,
Mhm.
but it's not going to change.
No. Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you could say the same thing. Trust you, because we've all been there. We've all
Absolutely.
had that Sisyphus episodes of pushing the rock up the hill, and then we just see it fall back down.
Yeah, it's curious you say that because I have like an analogy of what the past 10 years has felt like. Sometimes it felt like I was climbing out of a crater with all my hands bloodied and bruised. It's literally how it felt. But what I also like to point out is in that vision, is that I'm always moving up and out. It never occurs to me to slip back down.
Um,
So
did you ever despair early on?
despair? Yeah. Um, not since I picked up the course and the disappearance of the universe. Because I think that just activated something in my mind that was like, yes, this is it. This is the way out, the healthy way out. But before that, hell yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was just like, it was more like, this is it. Like, this is it. It wasn't like a depression, but I was like, this is not good enough. This is not good enough. That's kind of like how it felt more for me.
What was the time span between you first picking up the course as a serious practice and disappearance of the universe?
I picked probably just a few months.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, not that long at all. And then, like 6 months after I picked it up, Gary came to the city I was living in at the time, and I went with my parents and my sister, and we went and saw him. So yeah, it was all just like kind of nicely laid out.
Do you think you would have gotten the course to the extent that you have had it not been for disappearance of the universe?
No, I think it would have been probably more frustrating because I was brought up a Catholic, even though my mom was very spiritually minded. I was brought up a Catholic, so I always had this attraction to the characters, but not really the content of Catholicism. So I loved Jesus, I loved Mary, I was like the idea of the Holy Spirit. I went to Holy Spirit Catholic Church, that's what it was called. So I had that upbringing where I was so deeply attracted to these individuals, these ideas. And so I think that's what would have kept me with the course if I hadn't had disappearance of the universe. So I think that's what, and you know what I also believe is that I feel like an answer, like the support would have come, that this is going to make sense in some way. Like I do firmly believe that because the Holy Spirit is there for us. But Gary's books are a gift from the Holy Spirit to expedite this whole thing. Like, let's get moving. You got some waking up
Agree.
to do.
Did you still have any stumbling blocks?
Like doing the course?
Yeah. That
No,
just something in the course hit you and you're like, I don't know.
no, no. It,
That's
it,
awesome.
it was like, it was like mother, for me, it was like mother's milk. You know what? It was an answer I had been waiting for my whole life, and I came across it. Like I started doing it. I opened it for the first time and when I was 16, and I was like, "What is this?" Like I didn't get the first lesson, but it still always caught my eye sitting there on the dining room table. But then when I was 21, I was going through a really severe bout of anxiety, and I picked it up, and then with disappearance of the universe, it just really, yeah, it just became mother's milk to me. It was an answer I had waited for. Yeah.
It's funny, even with my own blocks, um, I knew it was for me.
Nice.
Even as I was practicing yoga, still
Yeah.
practice yoga, but
Nice.
I was going to the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is founded by Paramahansa Yogananda. And I was going with a friend, and we were going to meetings in DC for the Insight Meditation Society, founded by Tara Brach. Um,
Beautiful.
and him and I were having coffee together, and he asked me, "So, what is it? What's going to take us home? What's our path for enlightenment? Is it Self-Realization Fellowship? It is another branch of yoga? Is it Buddhism?" Without hesitation, it just came unbidden. Course in Miracles.
Absolutely.
And he's like, "But you can't get through the workbook." Um, and I was like, "I know, but I will."
Yeah.
I had no
All
doubt
of it.
that, you know, eventually it was going to be the time when I had no recourse. But, um, and it really was Gary's book that sort of, it didn't, I don't know if it gave me a better understanding, but it acted as some sort of um, release where
Yeah.
I got that prompt and it said, "Okay, now you can understand. Now you can get through it. Now you can proceed." Like it gave me permission.
Beautiful. Very nice. Yeah. It's almost like something clicks in your mind and you're ready. Yeah.
Um, so can we talk about Jesus?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Because we were talking about the Holy Spirit. Uh, what role does Jesus play in the course?
Well, so it's coming through, it's self-identified as Jesus, but it's the Holy Spirit. It's a symbol of the Holy Spirit, which is your higher self. So you don't want to get caught up going, is that true? Is that
Right,
legit? Because that's another ego ploy. Just if you not suggesting some people do, but if someone does struggle with that idea, just bring it back to that's your higher self, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus is a symbol of that. He's enlightened, one with the Holy Spirit, and here's a course. And what I love throughout the course is, there's a couple of times Jesus is like, I was a man and I went through this too, and I worked from the bottom up. He mentions it several times. So he's just like, I was there. I got you. I'm your big brother. Like let me help you out. So it's beautiful. But I personally find it very comforting, because you can see, well, I guess more, you can feel the love and the connection that he's trying to make. He's like, I was there. I've been through it. This is how you do it. So I just love him as a big brother, and I don't get caught up in anything else.
the course almost demystifies Jesus, and at the same time makes him very personable. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
Funny because I went to Catholic school as well. Um, Jesus went from a very loving figure early on in my life to a very stern, warning figure.
Yeah.
Um, and um, it was actually holding on to Mary that
Mhm.
softened Jesus again for me. Uh,
Beautiful.
and I was thinking about that because when we had Corinne Zupko up, and she
Yeah.
talked about having a vision in the garden where Jesus introduced her to um, the Divine Mother, the Divine Feminine,
Yes.
and
Yes.
said, "I'm your teacher now."
Oh.
Excuse me. And she mentioned that although the course is, decidedly masculine in energy,
Mhm.
the deliverance might be masculine, but the reception is very feminine, which
Mm.
I thought was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. 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 That's a yeah. Excellent. And yeah. 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 And it's I'm a bit of a purist as a person. Um, so I don't like to get caught up like in the overly masculine language of the course. It's like, what of it? Like, don't let it deter you. It's a trap.
Right.
It's an ego trap if you let that become a problem. Get to the core of it, get to the essence of it. And that's what I love about the course is that there's an incredible message beneath all of that. So don't let yourself get deterred. That's a very clear ego trap.
Do
Yeah.
you have do you have a preference your um, in your book in the Course in Miracles? Like which version of the course?
Yeah, I always use the foundation for inner peace. Yeah. Yeah.
That's my book. right there.
That's no one. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, everyone, and again, this is important to remember. Again, the Holy Spirit's in your mind and knows how to speak to you. If you feel more attracted to the text or whatever, like follow your heart. Don't get caught up. I think the worst thing that course students can do is argue about this and that. That's again another very obvious ego trap. Just use it. Use it as it's directed. Turn to the Holy Spirit and you're golden, right? If you need support, you will receive that support. It will show up, right? But turn to your higher self for that guidance. Don't delay, right? By getting caught up in stuff that is just quite simply not important.
Did you ever have any lag time early on in communicating with the Holy Spirit? Um, was there a point where you returned to the Holy Spirit and nothing yet, and that you had to keep practicing?
I think not only in the sense that before, like I told you, I felt like I had a deep connection with the characters. So I left my family and I just left Catholicism one by one, kind of flittered away when I was about 15, 16. And then I did work in my church just as a secretary a couple of nights a week when I was like 17, but I wasn't like a practicing Catholic. But I just loved the energy of being around it was literally called Holy Spirit Catholic Church. And so in that time, I always had like my prayer in a sense where I had my connection to those characters, and essentially the course just picked up. I just picked up the course and left that kind of version of praying behind and moved into the course. So no, I mean, I'm such a nerd, but like I even remember in grade 12, like in my art class, I drew Da Vinci's Madonna on the Rocks. Like I've just always had this deep attraction. So, yeah.
So how does your course practice look these days as you go through the day?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, honestly, what I shared earlier is before I get out of bed, I connect with Source. I always feel like I've kind of been like plugged in when I do that. Essentially, so what I do is I open my eyes, I review my dreams. Anything that needs to be forgiven, I do that right away. So because I find if I get up and walk around, I'll start to maybe forget my dreams. So I always do that right away. I connect with Source, and then I'll put the Holy Spirit in charge of my day. I get up and I move around. If there's anything that needs to be forgiven, I do that immediately. And if it's something like a little more fear-based, like I'm feeling a lot of fear, then I will find it prudent that I need to sit down and take a couple of minutes and really I like to go through the page 90 exercise if I feel particularly really fearful. I will do that almost at the soonest opportunity. I'll do that. And then also what I will do is then I've been doing the course lessons again. But it's only like as I feel like that I can really commit to it and want to do it. But I've done them before. So if you've done them once, that's sufficient. I'm just doing them again because I like it. Also, what I like to do is actually, I just find that some ACIM minded things just come to my mind throughout the day. So often, if I have a quiet moment, I'll just be like, oh yeah, there's that. That's cool. So I find that I get a lot of that. And if I need any support or guidance or inspiration, I'll open up to the Holy Spirit and go, I step back and let you lead the way. If there's anything that I need to do here or whatever it might be. And then I always, if I'm using the healing meditation, Gary's healing meditation for anything in particular, I will do that before I go to sleep. But if I'm not focused on anything that I feel needs healing, I will just, I love to remind myself that, again, I am God's child. I'm one with my source. And I like to say before I go to sleep that I rest now, my source, knowing that I'm one in you. And then I put the Holy Spirit in charge of my dreams. And I say, if there's anything I need to heal, let me know. So that's what I do.
I love that. Do you keep a dream journal?
I do. Yes. Yeah. 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 It's pretty good.
Um, it, if anyone wants to really recall their dreams and work with their dreams, I think that's essential.
Yes, yeah, it is very helpful. And it's curious, when I met my husband 12 years ago, he was the person who was like, I don't remember my dreams. And I was like, oh my God, I like wake up and interpret my dreams. I love dreams. And he actually very quickly, within the first year of us dating, he very quickly started to remember his dreams. And now he remembers his dreams. But what he did, as opposed to a dream journal, he actually just made a point of saying, I'm going to remember my dreams. He did that for like a year, gave
Well,
himself that message. Yeah. Mhm.
we have a question. At what starting age group is recommended for the book A Course in Miracles?
Oh, well, I mean, they do say it's for adults 18 and above, but you also can't discount those souls that are, mature and ready to go, right? So if there's someone attracted to it and mature enough, but you know what? I think they're going to know. So that's very personal. That younger person would know and pick it up. But yeah, it's for adults 100%. I wrote a children's book where I took the laws of the mind from the course and I presented it in a secular manner in a children's book, just to help reinforce the importance of the mind for children at a young age. So that was one thing, but I don't get into the course teachings in a heavy
Um,
way.
I want to mention real quick that Fiona's books are found on Amazon.
Yes. Yeah. 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 I have four of them out there and working on the fifth one now.
Oh, can we get a hint what the fifth one might be about?
Yeah.
If you
Well, I
don't,
mean, it's honestly going to be a play by play and a walk through the true forgiveness process in real world terms, breaking it down, making it easy, making it usable, making it relevant. I'm going to be bringing in some course teachings that I find kind of stay hidden, but are absolutely necessary for developing your willingness to use true forgiveness. So the heart of it would be true forgiveness, what it is, how it works, to the capacity that I can understand, because I know Holy Spirit deals with all of that. And then how to use it. How do I use it? And then I will be sharing like my personal stories of, down in vertigo, very like feeling writhing rage from the relationship with my mom when I felt abused, like, like the toughest moments in a full blown panic attack. How do you use these things? How do you bring them to life? How do you bring the course to life through the hardest moments? But also, how do you make it a habit in the gentler times? So it is going to be all that.
um, I'm looking forward to this. Do you have a projected date?
Honestly, I'm doing the book proposal for it now. If it gets accepted, then I will be under a publisher's guidelines. If it does not get accepted, then I'm just going to D. Patrick Miller of Fearless Books. I love working with him. I've worked with him twice before, and I'm just going to go straight to Patrick and rock it out. So if
Oh,
I
nice.
self-publish it, it would probably be late next year. If it gets accepted by a publisher, that would be under their timeline.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, I sent a note to a message to D. Patrick Miller.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll have time maybe to come up uh,
Yeah.
and have a conversation. I wanted to
Yeah.
touch base um, with your practice again, and you had mentioned how um, once you've been through the course, um, you don't necessarily need to start over at the beginning and do the workbook over again. You might feel called to do so. I have lots of
Nice.
times felt called to. Um, and an earlier guest we had was Dove Fishman,
Oh,
uh,
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he mentioned about 27 years into his study of the course, he was given in very clear instructions that to put the book, that he
Oh, yeah.
didn't need the concepts, but it felt like he was giving this to me. Um,
Yeah.
for a long time, he said he worked with um, the review lessons, 201 to 220. Um, And that was the main focus. And that he believed if you just, after you've been through the course at least once, the workbook, um, that if you just worked with those 20 lessons, that contains the essence of the entirety of the course. Because the line is repeated, the most repeated line in the course is, I am not a body, I am free, for I'm still as God created me. Um, and that frequent reminder of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
And that is
constantly.
healing for your mind. That is very healing for your mind. If you can often remind yourself of that, do that. Your innocence, right? It's your innocence is healing. Acknowledging your innocence is healing because it's
Right.
always your guilt is why you suffer, right? So in the course, the guiltless mind cannot suffer. So the more you can tune into your innocence and start to bring that idea in, the better, the easier things are going to flow for you 100%. Because, yeah.
He also mentioned he took lesson 25 as his personal mantra. I don't know
Oh,
what anything is for. And
yeah.
I find that has been applicable in almost every aspect of my life. That
Yeah.
from a misunderstanding to, um, you know, even something that verges on a tragedy, I can look at it and say, I don't know what anything is for. Meaning my ego is
Mhm.
going to judge saying, I know what this is for. Hey, a tragedy is meant to panic. Um,
Yeah. Make you
a
think you're a body, by the way.
right, right.
Make you think you're a body and their bodies and they're suffering and you're all horrible and you're just suffering. Yeah.
Um, but the ego really doesn't know what anything is for.
What doesn't? No. No. I think it's important for people to acknowledge that the ego it's just an idea. Like it's not some looming thing, there's no devil. It's not something looming over you. It's a belief that you've held in your mind that you think you're separate from God. And we just give it a term, ego, right? For ease. But ultimately, I think it's important to move beyond the idea that it's something that is separate from you. It is coming from you. And you then have full power to turn the table on it, right? Because do not doubt that beneath every conflict you feel is valid and you feel is hurtful and all of your suffering, because we can feel, of course, very, very validated in our suffering 100%, and I get that. But remember, in those quieter moments where you feel more peaceful, you feel more open-minded to spirit, it's important to recognize that beneath all of that, all the ego is trying to achieve is its survival through your belief. That's it.
Um, can you talk a little bit about how are we supposed to deal with the ego? Because a lot of people, once they get that glimmer,
Yeah.
that they're not the ego, they are ready to go to battle. They want to fight the ego. They want to get rid of it. They want to, literally suit up, um,
Mhm.
pick up the jousting stick, and um, I sort of purposely use that jousting stick, thinking of Don Quixote,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. This is very important to recognize how often you are affording the ego your belief. First of all, by thinking it's something outside of you. And the the problem is, again, that we've taken the ego seriously. That stems back to the tiny mad idea. The problem was I took it seriously. That's the issue. And every single time I react with the ego, it's because I've taken it seriously. That's the problem. When you do that, you are saying there is something other than God. That's the issue, right? And that's what needs to be corrected by acknowledging the atonement. I never left my source. God is, period, right? So we want to remember that. So when we think about the ego, don't make it real. It's nothing. It's a belief in your mind, right? So when people say, "Oh, my ego is working hard today," oh my goodness, that's a trap. Like you don't say that. Like you're just reinforcing your own suffering by feeding in the belief that there is an ego for you to attack. So what's important to remember is that one of the miracle principles defines atonement essentially by saying atoning is undoing. The ego is undone. It's not attacked. It's not made real in any way. Attacking it is making it real. It's nothing. And so through our true forgiveness, through our acceptance of the atonement, it's simply undone. It dissolves. That's it. So you really want to be super mindful of the ways you are reinforcing your belief in the ego, because the ego paradox is, as we're taught in the course, the ego paradox is the ego tells you you're helpless, that you're a body, and that you are incapable of doing anything, yet it uses your mind's power to survive. That's the paradox. So you want to be very vigilant to recognizing where you're giving in to the idea that the ego is something that you have to attack or make real.
That's the insidiousness
Yeah,
of the
excellent
ego.
words. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Um, so we're going to get ready to wrap things up. But before we do, an hour and a half has flown by.
Yeah, it has
Um,
flown
Thank you so
by.
much.
My
Um,
pleasure.
could you let people know what you offer?
Absolutely. So my books, and then I offer spiritual coaching. So if you feel you need support understanding the course or how to apply it to a certain area of your life, that's where I can help you out. So that's one of my services. I also do intuitive readings. So angel cards, just happen to enjoy doing that as well. And then I also have my podcast, which is available to listen to on Apple and through my website and Spotify. And then I have some, card decks as well, and some children's products to support children in their mental health. So that's what I offer. That's what I do. And moving into the new year, when I'm done this book proposal, moving into the new year, I'm going to be doing a lot more on Instagram. My biggest focus, what I want people to know is my biggest focus is helping you understand so you can apply, because you're going to start to see the results when you start to apply the course and its teaching. So I love helping people understand how to apply it.
Have you thought about doing anything on YouTube?
Yeah, I have my YouTube channel as well. I post some of the like my podcasts. I make them into videos and post them there as well. Yeah, so I just another way of sharing that content. Yeah.
Um, what's your YouTube channel name? Because I looked for you and I didn't find it, but I looked for. Um, should I look under your maiden name?
Yeah, at Fiona Maria Will.
Gotcha. I
Yeah,
will do that.
yeah, yeah.
And I will also put it in the description so people
Oh,
will
I
be able to find it.
appreciate. Thank you. I
Um,
just reinvigorated it, so I'm getting my flow back with it. Because honestly, just being honest, right? This is me coming out of PTSD, so I'm ready to go back full force into my work. So
Good. Do
yeah,
you find this is your special function?
yeah. Well, there's just nothing else I'd rather do than be helpful in this way. There's other things that I could maybe do, but they wouldn't have as much meaning or really much of any meaning. This is my joy. This is just, I love helping others. And I think sharing the course is the best way I can help others because it works.
And I love that the prayer, the great prayer in A Course in Miracles, that I'm only here to be truly helpful.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I find whenever I reach out, and you're a perfect example of this, whenever I reach out to a course student, inevitably, unless there's something big going on in their lives, I get this wholehearted yes. I could think of nothing better I would rather do than hang out with you and talk about A Course in Miracles for an hour and a half. And uh, was your enthusiasm just it breaks me open with so much joy when I
Oh,
when I get that because you really were like you know was there something else that we could be doing because
yeah,
this sounds like the most fun I could have.
that's right.
Um, I've I feel like I have with my channel and talking to you and talking to all the wonderful guests that I've had stepped into my own um, a special function. And at
Nice.
the age of 60, I'm very much surprised. Um, but I absolutely love it.
Good to know.
And
Yeah,
I've loved our conversation.
me too. Me too. Yeah, because it's the way that you're extending God's love, right? So of course it's gonna feel good.
It does. It really does. Um, we have a friend that says, uh, Eric, can you help tell her to come back and tell Eric you made him cry in a good way.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm beyond grateful. Thank you.
You might have the record, I think, for some of the most questions asked. So
Really? Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. Oh, well, then we definitely should meet again because I just love helping people understand it. It's important.
Yeah, I definitely want a part two because, as I said, there's just so much uh, to talk about. I I don't know why I've always been fascinated with Milton Erickson. Um,
Yes. Yeah, meant to be.
and, I was mentioning neurolinguistic programming
Yeah.
yesterday, and that I often found it to be and it has an underappreciated spiritual aspect to it. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, the body is a teaching device, and we can either use it for the ego's teaching purposes, which is why, or, we can let the Holy Spirit move through. And in that regard, you can have some pretty incredible experiences, so.
Um, so whenever you're ready, we will do part two and part three. Um,
What?
I very much enjoyed our time. I will send you this as well as, like I said, I'll be making shorts and clips. I On that note,
Yeah.
talking about special functions. Um, Lisa Natoli actually talked about. She asked me if I could make clips of her appearance up here,
Oh, nice.
and I said no, I don't know how. Um,
Oh,
and as I said that, I had another clear understanding asking me, do I not know how or I haven't ever tried?
ooh,
And I had never tried
illuminating.
before. Yeah, it
There
was.
you
So I started
go.
making clips. And as she
Nice.
pointed out, that this is another piece in its special function because it's one thing to do a talk, but not
Yeah,
everyone is going to listen to an hour and a half conversation about
yeah,
A Course in Miracles. But
totally.
a 2 minute clip um, that comes as a gift from the algorithms when you're about to take that drink after being sober for a number of years, when you are recovering from PTSD, when you have on the verge of a panic attack or anxiety. That one clip of you offering something absolutely beautiful and healing,
Yeah,
someone's gonna find it, and
absolutely.
it's
It will
gonna
show
make all
up.
the difference. So
100%. Beautiful
this
idea.
in this hour and a half conversation, it's clip after clip after clip after clip.
You're
Um,
so sweet.
so we are gonna fill the we're gonna fill YouTube up
Let's do
with
it.
you offering the Holy Spirit. That's the goal.
Very cool.
Thank you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for your time. And thank you, everyone, for listening and joining and for your questions. And I hope it was helpful.
I believe it was. Take care, guys. I will see you at 5 in the morning. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.